What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. Welcome back to Fear Factory's discography. Archetype is the follow-up album to 2001's Digimortal, first album to have Christian Old Wolbers to do the guitar parts, as well as that Fear Factory have returned less than a year after they broke up with a brand new lineup at the time. Burton C. Bell on vocals, Christian Old Wolbers on guitar, Raymond Herrera on drums, and Byron Stroud from Strapping Young Lad on the bass. This album was the only album to be released through the Liquid 8 label. The band, along with their longtime keyboardist Reese Fulber, did the production. As a longtime Fear Factory fanatic, I do think that Archetype is definitely one of those later albums that greatly deserved a lot of the appreciation. It was met with mixed reviews upon its release. However, it went to number 30 on the US Billboard 200, which was at the time the band's highest charting album to date. Archetype is an album that I've listened to the most for gosh knows how many times. I've listened to this album a lot when I worked out in the gym, to even listening back to it a lot in preparation for this review. What is also great about this album is how mostly consistent this album really is. I think the lineup of Fear Factory at this point deserves a lot of the appreciation as well. So with Fear Factory, to move forward without Dino was quite an unexpected turn of events. But with that being said, Archetype is definitely one of these favourable later albums that I have loved a lot in terms of a later direction in a metal band's history and discography. But as an album itself, this is one of those that I would definitely rank confidently as one of my most favourites. The album opens with the song Slave Labour. This is an instant classic as it immediately gives me the adrenaline and its power through the very energetic, engaging, complex rhythm sections. It's one of my most favourite Fear Factory tracks of all time. Raymond and Christian's playings are always fun and addictive to listen to. Heavy attack of the raw tones from the band. Outstanding musicianship, and defines Fear Factory at one of their best tracks. It's just an amazing opener that's top tier alongside the previous album opening tracks like with Demanufacture and Shock. Slave Labour's lyrics critique the music industry and capitalism as well. There are descriptive references when the band was stuck with the legal contract with Roadrunner Records and being mistreated, hence like being treated as a slave while they've been working in the music industry. All of the lyrics are about these experiences. The line "I sold my soul" is probably like a dig at Roadrunner Records as they forced the band to work hard and the label wouldn't give them any payment. Cyber Waste. The song is the most aggressive sounding double bass pedaling I've ever heard from Raymond's drumming. The song grew the heaviness that's non-stop, and the music feels like, to me, a stab with its very big wound that's not healing. The speed is insane all the way through, and the riffs go crazy through the multiple changes of the chords, as well as to hear Raymond's changeable beats. He decided to not only bring in terrific control, but blast beats occasionally. The lyrics are immediately a response to the negativity from the people who gave the band a lot of hate, and it's also referencing the spread of the misinformation as well as the lies that were going around for the people to believe in them. So in the end, Cyber Waste is a fuck you dismissal message after all of that craziness happened, and Fear Factory have nailed it. Act of God. Strong introduction as it opens this staccato type of tone from the rhythm section. It remains quite consistently until the different change of sound in the chorus happens, as the chords were strumming nicely with great vocals from Burton. Rhys Fulber adds the quiet keyboards to make him feel involved as well. The bridge adds more of the moodiness as the song was growing. Act of God is a song that was pretty much like a grower. It's not one of those songs that I personally do love just as highly, but it's still a song that I do like a lot. A lot of the lyrics are showing a change from what we usually see in the imagery of Fear Factory's lyrics. This time around, Act of God shows the bigger part of religion on God as well as the human condition through conflict, making us think to look back from the nature of the divine influence through human existence, going into these later lyrical meanings of showing the difference of the light and the darkness in their separate embodiments. It's the division between the both of them that people would struggle to overcome through the conflict. Drones. It starts in this atmospheric ambience fade in, and the guitar and drums start together once again. The song does feel more like an atmospheric feel, and as well as a melodic direction after the aggression from the first few songs earlier from the album. It's lower tuned this time, and the tone is pretty gnarly. Burton distorts in the verses, and he opens up his brilliant cleans later on. I do think this is one of my favourites on the album because I think structure-wise it's better than Act of God, and its melody is bigger. Just like the lyrics on The Human Condition, this song goes into pretty much the same lyrical inspiration, feeling the despair and to know the true harshness of reality, presenting the view of existence where humans are trapped in this repetition of life's difficulty, feeling the disillusionment of modern life, and experience how challenging it has been while being surrounded with things that exist over anything that is meaningful. The title track, Archetype, is the main single on the album. I have always loved this song because it is memorable and catchy through the performances. It's not only one of the most popular Fear Factory songs, but it is as anthemic, and it's a classic. The verse and chorus sections connect perfectly to continue the song's power of hearing Burton's excellent vocals, and structure-wise, this is simplicity that stood right out the most because it is as effective and fun. The lyrics are about this self-identity and importance of knowing who you truly are to define yourself, interpreting lyrics of removing and improving the machine metaphorically. It's a sign and change of improvement and remove the negativity. The chorus is addressing to the listener what they see and to show their true self. Besides, many people would really think of the pre-chorus as a reference to Dino Cazares after what we know about between the strained relationship between Burton and Dino, a masterpiece that's not only one of my favourite Fear Factory tracks, it's just some of the other best songs they have created. Corporate Cloning, it's one of those underrated songs. The start is kind of like slave labour-ish, although some people would say that slave labour sounds a bit like shock from its introduction. This song starts in a separate groove. Burton's vocals sounded simplistic without a lot going on, but it opens more of the space to hear the music as well as to listen to the overall hook. The melody and sustain from Burton's vocals was stellar. The instrumentation still grabs a lot of the punch and the oomph, but it's not one of those most complex sounding songs like what most of the album sounded like. The lyrics are about the individualists of society being changed and treated into a full mechanized world. The corporate culture has taken over the identity of humans. A lot of the lyrics, imagery-wise, go into the world where the mass production and conformity both have taken over society and became dominant. Another single, Bite the Hand That Bleeds. The less is more, easygoing, softer song grows more of the space for Burton to open up his vocal range as we hear the whisper, the clean vocal, and the big soaring notes. The song to me is just as great to capture a different kind of emotion, and it's not only one of the other highlight songs on the album, a ballad from Fear Factory that I have enjoyed very, very much every time I hear it. It's given its own breath of fresh air after what we have heard throughout a lot of the album's aggression. The whole point of the song lyrically is about a relationship when someone who was being used and whose energy had been shut down by another person. The breaking point moment arrived on the basic lines in the chorus as the person has been pushed aside to be against the other person who took advantage. The title of the song is basically making a reference for the victim to stand up and owning the self-worth. Undercurrent. This is another one of the most underrated Fear Factory songs that does not get a lot of the credit and overall praise, which is a shame because to me it's one of the highlights. The sound of the chords that were arranged, they sounded incredible, fantastic sound, and it features another stellar performance from Burton vocally. The song is still sounding quite aggressive, but the continuation of hearing both the distorted and clean vocals were the best parts that grew the song's strength, as well as to hear the amazing harmony later on in the song. The lyrics address the whole impact of affecting someone with fear and manipulation as well. The verses are written about the common use of lies and the undertones of fear, expressing the negative emotion, criticizing them and their impact to frighten other people as well. The second verse is about facing those who spreaded that negative behavior. They target them from their spreading of hate and by deceiving others. The lies have been made and the manipulators were aware from their intentional actions to hurt other people. Fits the overall purpose about people's actions that were hurtful and the victims were finding it difficult to overcome these things, and they begin to question the thought of bringing any trust to other people while being in a world that's been involved with this abusive, very sensitive nature. Default Judgment. Byron Stroud's opening bass sound to start the song is just incredible. I love how raw and thick it sounded. The music is very much like the Rammstein influence, through the sound of the riffs by Christian's influence, as he was listening to Rammstein's Mutter album, as well as with bands in that style of metal music, and also Slayer's covers album of Undisputed Attitude. So the influence is very noticeable on here. Raymond's drumming were focused on the simplicity through a lot of the verse sections. Reese Folber's involvement of adding his keyboards build more of the sound that connects Burton's melody, and it sounds so great on here. Not so aggressive and not as in your face, but this is still a great track through these changes and the mood. Default Judgment's lyrics are probably the most complex to digest and to understand it, exploring the themes of discrimination, unjust judgments, and later lyrics go through the sense of hopelessness and despair in the face of authority that's unforgiving. The verses show the experience of being targeted by discrimination. The discrimination is there to punish and destroy a group of people, having personal pain as the punishment over these difficult things, also emphasizing the impacts of these judgments. The lyrics on the chorus reflect the inevitability and powerlessness and symbolizing a person's raging fate and didn't have a chance to escape the cycle of discrimination and undergoing pain. The word never could be expressed as possibly an act of being against the cycle of discrimination, the refusal to accept the fate that was imposed by biased judgments and to not be taken down by them. Bone Scraper. The band sounded incredibly ferocious on here. There's a lot of technicality, fast picking. The later parts of the structure sounded as heavy rhythmically. I love the hook in these verse sections. I have to point out Raymond's drumming again because they sounded just as crazy and intense, like Cyber Waste. It's crushing. Burton's vocals were also strong on here. This is another one of the favourites on this album. The lyrics present the dark and deep exploration of feeling numb, resilience, and wanting to detach yourself from pain, being trapped in an unescapable world of suffering, saying there's no future for the person, mentioning these separate phrases lyrically to feel emotionally low and disconnected from reality, having no response to the world this person's involved in, continuing to feel the same way throughout the later lyrics and having this detachment. This person won't feel any sense of physical and emotional pain either. The later verses go to the same descriptions of what the person's state had become, growing the emptiness and possibly saying these things as a way to cope, like a coping mechanism of protection. The last part of the song is about the person's state that possibly can be relatable and to not feel alone as others may feel the same way. So these emotions could be shared during the burdens of existence. And the album concludes with the final song in terms of hearing the whole band of Human Shields. It has a sense of dread and emotion. Burton's vocals were strong in this song because he sustains his notes and the way he sounds adds a big melancholy feel to it. The band made the music striking. A song that's like memory imprints never end from the way it was executed. It concludes the album in a political imagery through the lyrics. The song's lyrics capture the experience in a burden of being involved with violence and an ongoing conflict with innocent people who are forced to fight without a choice. The idea of people that will be involved in violence that was committed by governments or leaders. The imagery is very deep, as if it could be visibly seen in front of your eyes, hence with the lyrics of children running, soldiers' boots, and the thought of fighting, mothers burdened, praying for mercy, in the sense of desperation and feeling helpless. Basically showing a message of being against the thought of committing a war and wanting to share a message of peace in a world that's been brutalized with violence. A different sounding Fear Factory track, just like with Timelessness, that concluded the obsolete album, but this is still an excellent track. The album fully finishes with the 7-minute ambient keyboard-driven composition of Ascension that follows after the main song Human Shields. This is where John Bechdel's credit does become involved here, as Rhys Fulber's contribution on the keyboards was fantastic to make him feel the appreciation of building Fear Factory's sound for a long time. I think John Bechtel did a really good job to be involved here. It has this continuation sound-wise that is pretty much like the main key of Human Shields. Pitch-corrected vocal notes from Burton's voice in the background, as well as to hear these other soundscapes. It's a very different one when you think about comparing it to the industrial background noise sound from A Therapy for Pain from Demanufacture. Ascension does have its own separate soul that is just lovely to listen to. And I think that is a great word because, you know, I love ambient music like this. Did fit its final conclusion to finish off Archetype very positively. After the whole Archetype album, we hear Fear Factory's cover of Nirvana's song School. To tell you the truth, I am not a fan of a lot of metal bands covering songs that were originally done from different sounding bands. There were just a few decent amount, but I actually think this cover is pretty good, considering that I am more of the Fear Factory fan to listen to the main album and to not hear this cover right after Human Shields and Ascension. But I think this cover is still pretty enjoyable to listen to. At least it is way better and listenable than their U2 cover on their next album, Transgression, which I will have to obviously review that. I have different words to talk about that album in the future. But nevertheless, besides hearing and loving a lot of Archetype, to hear this Nirvana cover as a bonus track, I, most of the time, don't really mind listening to this one. It's just a good one overall. The production of the album as well as the mixing, to me, both sounded brilliant. Having Demanufacture, Obsolete and Digimortal to have the signature iconic tone of production as well as the music, I think the overall rougher around the edges and raw sounding take of production on this album did perfectly fit in really well on this album. The sound of the guitars sounded pretty great and aggressive. Raymond's drums, to me, were terrific sounding, and as well as that I've complimented Byron Stroud's bass, the keyboards from John Bechtel and Rhys Fulber were really strong on here. Overall, Archetype by Fear Factory is a brilliant album to follow up the last classic album, Digimortal, from the previous beloved lineup in the band's history, as there's variety and the difference through the songs in their separate messages. I am really curious to know what you guys think of Archetype. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you love this album? Do you really like this album? Is this one of your most favourite Fear Factory albums? I'm going to give Archetype by Fear Factory a 9 out of 10. It's the best rating that I can give for this album, although there are some fans who would rank this as a perfect masterpiece 10 out of 10 album. There are Fear Factory fans who would prefer this album over Digimortal. I'm in the polar opposite. I still love Digimortal more than this, one of my big favourite albums in the band's discography. Thank you guys for watching, and I will keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.